All right. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever it is that you're joining me from. It's a minute past 7 o'clock, and it's time to connect. All right. So I was a little bit busy sharing the link onto my WhatsApp platform before I came right back to engage with everybody here. So it's great to be here. It's the first Sunday in the month of March, and I'm super excited because it's also the final day of our series from alignment to impact. All right, so I'm going to take the volume of the background music just a little bit lower. Okay, all right, so this will work perfectly. Okay, so it's great. It's great to have everybody joining us here on our three platforms, and we've been doing three platforms for the past couple of weeks: Facebook, LinkedIn, and of course YouTube. All right, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. You can get us on any of those platforms right now, and it's super exciting to be here. So, hey, you know what? You want to take the next minutes or the next few seconds to share this across to all your friends, your enemies, your real friends, as I said last week, or to your people. Please go ahead and share. It's so important that you get people that you believe, you want to be able to work with people, you want to be able to connect with people, you believe have like minds such as you. And get them to be a part of what we're going to be discussing today. I met with someone today, and shouts out to Cedric Onyekachi, who has been an impressive follower. And we met for the first time today, and he was telling me how much this series and the Connect Large has been such a blessing to him and his friends. And I was really surprised to hear that. I was sharing that with someone after and said, look, people are watching, and this is something amazing. So shout out to Cedric. It was really nice to see you today, earlier on today. All right, so everybody, are you ready? Are you ready? I'm absolutely excited. I'm absolutely pumped up. I think it's going to be really an amazing episode that we have today, which will be like the grand finale to the series that we've been having. And I just want to ensure that I'm properly seated and rightly positioned to deliver value. So if you can hear me, run to the comment section right now, whatever platform that you're in, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and type I am right here with you. You go ahead. Everybody that is online, I can see those on LinkedIn, I can see those on Facebook, I can see YouTube. Yes, I can see YouTube. Go ahead. All right. I'm having a couple of comments coming up already. All right, all right, all right. And Dino, thank you so much. I'm super excited to join you tonight, boss. I am super excited to have you here with me as well. All right, so let's get all your tribe, all your community, all your friends and frenemies, get them to be here. Look, listen, today is one of those kind of episodes that you are like, I know is coming super loaded, right? You have episodes and you have episodes. Today is an episode, if you understand what I mean. And I'm going to be jumping into it in a bit. All right. So we've been running a series for the past month, literally, and it's been called From Alignment to Impact. And the entire series has been how to be rightly positioned to deliver on what your mandate or purpose is. How to be rightly positioned. That's basically that's interestingly all, and it leverages on the power of connection and all that it takes, the power of relationship as a resource, building a strategy around relationship and building a system around relationship. And it's so important. I've always said that the greatest resource that God gives to humanity is relationship, and your ability to be able to understand it, to be able to deploy it, to be able to navigate it will determine your experience here on earth, and literally how much you're able to get out of everything that life has to offer you. And so I think it's very important that we are able to get an insight to the episodes that have, the first three parts of this series. So you want to go back on Facebook, all right? You want to go back on Facebook and or LinkedIn or YouTube and catch these videos and listen to it. Trust me, even I had to go in the course of the week. I think it was on Tuesday or Wednesday to go watch session 2 and session 1. And session 2 was in 2 parts, if you remember that right. And then session 3 was actually in 2 parts as well, because we started off, had some technical issues, and then we were able to create the follow-up session which we had last week, and it was simply amazing. So we're starting off this week with the final episode. Somebody sent me a message a little while ago, and the person said, "Wait, is there going to be a sequel? Like, how can this be? how can this be um, the final episode, right? How can this be the final episode?" But no. I said, "What are we talking about?" And I am saying that yes, well, we do these things in series. You should be asking yourself after this series, what other series is coming up, right? That's what you should be asking yourself. That after this series, what other series is coming up? Okay, so we're going to start off. I think I've done a bit of background. I've also given everybody enough time. Okay, let me have a bit of water. I'm feeling a bit parched. I've also given people a bit of time to be able to share the link and get their people to join in. All right. Okay. So we're talking about the fourth episode that we've had. I mean, we've looked at purposeful conversations. We've looked at from isolation to integration. We've had a robust number of episodes over the weeks that have gone, over the month that has gone. Today, we're going to be talking about how to sustain the connection. Now that you've come from isolation to integration, now that you've learned to develop purposeful conversations and to build the right kind of network and to plug into the right kind of network and to do the things that enable that you are delivering, value in that network, because the value that you leverage in the network that you have is what will determine your net worth and all the things that attend to what you do in your network. Today, we want to close the series by rightly looking at the things that speak to how we sustain the connection, how we sustain the relationships, how we sustain the connect. And it's going to be amazing because this really cuts across. All right, sorry, my camera was a bit shaky. This really cuts across, whatever sphere of relationship that you're thinking about, business, social, family, spiritual, just think about it, whatever context you want to put it in. This, I believe, very strongly is applicable. And that's why I need you taking notes. That's why I need you noting the things that we're sharing. All right. So let's start from here. Many connections don't collapse because they started wrong. Many relationships don't collapse because they started wrong. Many connections collapse because they were not sustained intentionally. And that's the opening I want to leave with you that allows your thought to run. And I believe that everybody listening can begin to build something from here. All right. So we started off talking about alignment. The first episode of the first session, we talked about integration. We talked about purposeful networks, right? Representing all the other episodes and sessions that we've had. But the real question is, how do you keep what you build? So you've taken time, you've aligned, you've come into synergy, you've built power, which is very important. You've integrated, so you're now in the position of influence. And then you're not leveraging on the influence that you have by way of purposeful networks. But the question is, how do you keep what you've built? Because starting is exciting. And every time that you're a starter, it's really exciting. It's really amazing. Starting is exciting. Sustaining is discipline. And I hope somebody understands that. So you can start many things, but sustaining it really requires discipline. All right. So note this, a few things. We're talking about sustaining the connect. So I'm going to be talking about relationship disintegration primarily quite a bit today. So poise your mind and get your mind ready for it. Relationships rarely explode overnight. They drift slowly. There are gaps. All right. There are gaps. People become apart. There's a lot of silence. Many things just no longer come across as being appealing. And we find out that many times what we've been relying on is a lot of enthusiasm. And that has its place, trust me, because there's really nothing of significant import in your life that if you don't approach with a level of enthusiasm, it's going to be very doubtful whether you're even interested in it. But you see, all right, okay, apologies. apologies. Um, but I've had a bit of disconnect, but I'm right back. I just got a message I was disconnected on the Facebook platform, so we had to. All right, so we're back. If you can hear me, and if you can see me, send me a message. Let me know you can hear me. But that's enough platform that you're on, and let me know that you can hear me. You can hear me. You can hear me. All right. I want to be sure that I can be heard. I'm absolutely sure that I can be heard. If you can hear me, you can please, give me some. All right. So we're going to be looking. We were talking about sustaining the connect. All right. We're talking about sustaining the connect. And sustaining the connect means that we talked about the fact that first of all you've already done the alignment. Started up. I'm just doing a recap for those that are just joining. We started off saying that you're doing the alignment. Also, you move from alignment to integration, and that's very key. And then after integration, you are now intentional about kind of purposeful networks that you're building. All right, and we've had many talking points around quality of networks that we have, kind of value that you put in network, kind of expectations you have your network, what the network expects. And with all of that, you're beginning to have thriving relationships that position you to be able to do on many things. You're beginning to have network systems around you that sustain you, that give you opportunity, that expose you to levels of opportunity and growth, and also position you in a position to be able to teach others and to learn from others. And so networks are powerful. Networks determine how far you go. They determine what comes to you or what doesn't even get to come to you. Your network also determines the level and quality of sponsorship that you get, because somebody has to be speaking about you in a room where you're not, and it's usually people that are connected to your network or in your network that get to be able to speak about you. Why? Because they are the ones that will more readily and often than not hear of you and hear of what you're doing, and also are able to assess not necessarily directly your capacity, also based on the quality of relationships round about you. So your network is absolutely important. And the value that you deliver, number one, deliver, number two, communicate within your network, will also in many regards determine how your network is able to deliver and what your network is able to deliver to you. And so we spent quite a bit of time over 2 Sundays talking about purposeful network. Today, as I said earlier, we're going to be looking at something that I tagged sustaining the connect. We're talking points around systems, culture, and personal responsibility. Somebody write that down: systems, culture, and personal responsibility. And this is how sustaining the connect is really about building. It's really about ensuring that that which you build, that which you put together, that which you where you are, doesn't disintegrate. So we're talking about the quality and the strength, the solidity, the anchorage of your relationships, and how to ensure that you don't disanchor and anchor your relationships, or you don't disintegrate vital relationships that you should be having. So I think I've done a great enough recap, if you ask me, of what it is that we're talking about, and hopefully we have no more disruptions between now and I'm not necessarily restricting myself to 50 minutes today. I really want to be able to finish this session, so please stay with me as I run. So we're talking about the fact that, look, it's important that you build. How do you build? How do you keep what you build? How do you sustain uh, what you build? And I said that, look, you must understand that um, relationships or connections disintegrate because people don't intentionally sustain them. And that's the first point that I want you to think from. This connections or connects or relationships, whichever one you're more comfortable with, disintegrate because there isn't intentional sustenance. They're not sustained intentionally. And that's the heart of our conversation today. Because look, if you've been around a while, like I have, you will understand that relationships rarely explode overnight. They don't. They drift slowly. I know that. Um, Silently. There's less talking, less communication, and every time you might have heard this. Let me be the one to affirm to you that it is true. Without communication, any relationship dies without communication. So every time there isn't a communication, you are threatening death to that relationship, whether you realize it or not, whether you understand it or not. It doesn't have the obligation or the dispensation of understanding whether you mean it or not. Sorry, that light is in my eye. Whether you mean it, the light is in my eye. Whether you mean it or not, it doesn't take that from you. So what it really does is, if you're not communicating in a relationship, you have literally carried a magnum or an AK-47 and pointed it to the temple of that relationship, and you're about to fire. So the threat of death, or death in itself, is really what you're playing around with. So you want to kill anything, don't communicate. Don't communicate. Whatever it is, however upset you are, whatever it is, don't communicate. Right? Now, you have that silence. And many times we rely on enthusiasm rather than structure. So we think that this relationship, this connect, this association, yeah, I'm enthusiastic about it. I'm glad to be here. I'm honored to be in the presence of my mentor. I am glad to be in the with somebody that I love. I'm glad, blah 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 blah. But a connection requires structure. It requires management. Remember, it dies because of lack of intentional sustainability. So that alone tells you that there should be some degree of intentionality, and your intentionality requires structure. And anytime you hear intentionality, it means there must be a blueprint around it. There must be a design around it, because intentionality requires a significant level of consideration. What is all that consideration doing? Building a template that sustains and allows you to effectively monitor, drive a process, monitor a process, repair a process, and sustain a process. So intentionality is not just you paying attention. All that attention that you are paying to it, you are paying attention to money, you are paying attention to relationship, you are paying attention to your health. All that attention is for what? It's so that you can build a system. So you can't just rely on enthusiasm, and many times we do that. All right, we do that. Issues that happen in relationships, and we're all living beings. We all have different kind of relationships, right? We understand. We assume that understanding instead of clarification, clarifying expectations. All right. Many times, difficult conversations that bring the right kind of output are avoided because they feel uncomfortable. And over time, listen, over time, small misalignments become major fractures. Note that over time, small misalignments become major fractures. So, if you don't fix that misalignment with your clients, it becomes a significant fracture. If you don't fix that misalignment with your partner or with your spouse, it becomes a major fracture. If you don't fix that misalignment spiritually, you know I was coming there, right? If you don't fix that misalignment, it becomes a wide gulf. So small misalignments, right? If alignment is you coming together, coming into synergy, misalignment means that you're getting out of synergy. If alignment empowers, misalignment dispowers. So once you are out of alignment, you have seen and you are creating, right, a wide gulf, whether you realize it or not. And this is really what I share with people, that listen, life doesn't fight you at the level of your knowledge. And you have to, I've said this 1 million times over. I'll say 1,000,001 time. Life doesn't fight you at the level of your knowledge. So whether you know it or not, whether you realize it or not, whether you're conscious of it or not, is not life's business. Life will deal with you at the level of your potential. So it therefore means that if there's something that you ought to know, if there's something you ought to be given attention to, that's the level at which it will deal with you. Woe betide you, woe befall upon you, God forbid, if you find yourself in a situation where your level of knowledge is significantly lower than the level of your potential, then you're in trouble. then you're in trouble, because naturally what then happens is that you begin to get overwhelmed. Things will swim, you find yourself swimming in murky waters of misunderstanding, of lack of understanding, lack of comprehension, and then you simply just find yourself in a position where you really don't have a grip of what's going on in your own life. That sounds to me like chaos. It sounds to me like trouble. It sounds to me like a whole lot of stuff you don't want to have to deal with. So misalignment is not something that you leave for later. It's not something you deal with kids' golf. What looks like a misalignment, as I remember, I was sharing with a couple of I was sharing with a client one time. I think it was sometime last year, one of the corporate sessions I was having, and I said that I said, look, misalignment is like you flying. You're supposed to be flying straight, and then you're misaligned from the very beginning. At the very onset, it just seems you seem a little bit. But by the time you have gone further, where you're supposed to be going straight, if you can see my finger, you find yourself veering away. The further you go, the more you go, the further away from where you should be. That's how it works. It seems so little, so insignificant. You let that you are not on the same page. You don't try to bring yourself on the same page. You are justifying not being on the same page. You're out of sync for whatever reason. The only way that empowerment returns to you or whoever else is in that relationship is only when you come back into alignment. Misalignment will never produce power. Misalignment produces heat, chaos, frustration. That's what misalignment produces. Negative energy. All right? Negative energy. That's what misalignment produces. So, here's the truth. The truth of the matter are, which will also serve as the basis for the rest of the conversation that we're having today, is that, listen, guys, what isn't, how do I put this? What isn't intentionally sustained, and write this down, what isn't intentionally sustained will eventually deteriorate. What isn't intentionally sustained will eventually deteriorate. So the issue is not whether or not we can connect. The issue is not whether or not we can vibe. The issue is not whether or not we can hire you. The issue is not whether or not you can get that contract. The issue is not whether or not you can be in that league or in that association. The issue is whether we can maintain connection. And usually this question arises whether we can maintain connection under pressure. Whether or not we can maintain connection under pressure. That's the real question. So it's not see, sailors are not made for when the sea is calm. Sailors are not made for when the waters are smooth. The warmth of the metal of a sailor, a real sailor, is known in stormy waters. And that's why, for you to be able to be intentional about sustaining the connections that you have, there must be systems that are put in place. Now you're saying, relationship system. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so the next thing I want to take some time to discuss is what I call the power of systems. The power of systems. So with the backdrop of everything that I've shared, right, please understand that sustainability is not emotional. Sustainability is structural. Yes, the emotions that bring you into a relationship, whether it is to further your business, whether it's an emotional relationship, whether it's a spiritual relationship, whatever it is. But hear me, the sustainability of any relationship, whether it's an organization, whether it's the market, whether it's a marriage, whether it is I don't know, a board, whether it is a group, whether it is a church, the sustainability of that connection, of that relationship, is not emotional. The sustainability of it is structural. And when I say structural, it means that when motivation fluctuates, when emotion fluctuates, systems and structures stabilize performance. So that not depending on the influx or outflux of feelings per time, high and lows, emotions per time. But when you build a structure, and what structures require are commitment. This is why it's essential. Listen to me. This is why it's essential to relationship that even if you are not at your optimal, there's an obligation to a commitment that you have to that connection that you share. So, because of your commitment to that connection, even on a bad day, in a bad season, you still show levels of honor. Even at a bad time, you're still ready to invest a certain level that ensures sustainability and growth. Even when you don't feel like, or you don't have sparks, you're still so committed to the higher cause because there's understanding and because there's a structure in place to which you owe your commitment and you have your commitment to it. That's what holds you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't have structure in a relationship, hear me, in a connect, and by now I should not have to tell you that you don't limit your concept or your thinking to connect. Let me tell you something. I was sharing, by the way, I was sharing with a group of guys yesterday. I had a meeting in church there. So as that I came down, I met some young people and a group of young people, and they were having a conversation. I was walking past, they asked me, I think a couple of them might even be online today. They asked me and they said, How do we have system thinking for the future? That's the conversation that we're having. And I found myself for the next 25 minutes breaking down some profound things to them. That's why I said they might be here, because they were like, you know what, we need to jump on whatever you're jumping on, and we need to listen to you speak some more. And one of the things that I said to them is that I sincerely believe that as human beings, we don't think enough. And I said that there's something that happens when sustained thinking or sustained thought is given to a subject matter in a very objective and profound way that allows you to examine and re-examine all options. In other words, what you're doing is giving light to whatever blind side you may have as regards the subject matter, leveraging on access to research and access to other people's opines, not because you want it to shape yours, but you want it to contest with what you have so that what is better or best may emerge. It's, by the way, it's called syndicate group reasoning or syndicate focal reasoning. That's what it's called. And I said that this is how futuristic thinking is done, because what you're doing is looking at a situation, you are case representing a scenario for the future, and you're saying, what could the problems of this organization, this church, this department, and all the other particular subject matters that we're having in that conversation, what could be the problems in the next 5 years, and detaching yourself from the current problems that you're having. Because every time, listen, I've said this before, every time you are beleaguered by your present circumstances, you will never be creative enough to prepare for the future. You will never. That's why you put systems in place so that there are certain things right now that you don't have to think about. If you have to think about every single thing that you are doing right now, then you will not be able to develop the boundary that allows you to think about tomorrow. So you build systems to take care of certain things today. That's why you find out that high performers are irritated when they have to think about mundane things that they already should have had systems in, or they put people in charge of, or there was delegation to, or something was set up so that they don't have to run that through the bandwidth of their minds. Now, this is in many ways related to what I'm sharing today, but I just felt the need to also share that with you. We don't think hard enough. We're not processing enough. And the reason why I brought that up is because I'm also just trying to show you that every successful and every thriving relationship so wherever it is, I don't know if it's just the videos of network glitch, but I'm back now. All right. So bottom line is, guys, even in every connection that you have, even in every relationship that you have. All right. So what does this structure, what does this system look like? What does this system look like in a relationship? So someone is saying, you've been talking about system. You're talking about what does it look like? Let me tell you what a system in a relationship looks like. A system in a relationship looks like having communication rhythms. That's a system. This is how we communicate. Clear communication rhythms. This is how we communicate. A system in a relationship looks like having defined responsibilities. A system in a relationship looks like, how do we take feedback loops. A system in a relationship looks like accountability conversations. A system in a relationship looks like decision clarity. How do we arrive at the decisions that we take? A system in a relationship looks like all these things that I've said and much more. Because without clarity, assumption grows. Without systems, assumption grows. That means that when you don't have clarity as regards this component, these things that make up a system, and you can think of many more. I'm just giving you a little bit of example. There are many more. The things that you adhere to, the things that determine and regulate how you exchange, that regulate how you interact. So that just not, you've got to come to every relationship that you have and every connection that you have. You can't just have anything goes in them. It will never work. Because if anything goes, listen, just because you've said anything goes, it does not mean that what I like today, I will like tomorrow. So what happens when I don't feel like what I liked yesterday? What happens? And you're not willing to change. No. So there must be things that we adhere to because we agreed to. Yeah? Somebody write that down, right? Yeah, exactly. I can see that. Some things that we adhere to because we have agreed to. And that agreement should be honored. So when you don't have a system in a relationship, assumption grows. Every time assumption grows, assumption, by the way, is the lowest level of intelligence. So every time that you assume, your assumption could be right, it could be wrong. At best, you're assuming through the lens of your perspective. What sources your perspective is another subject for another day. Because you are right in your perspective doesn't mean your perspective is right. And so what you've seen it through a lens. And what you've seen is you've rightly seen it through the lens. It doesn't mean that you are seeing rightly. And there's a whole conversation around that. So without systems, assumption grows. And that for me is recipe for chaos. Whether it's business, again, like I said, I keep finding myself having to reiterate the diverse context of connect and relationship. But I trust that if you follow this over the past month, you have deep enough understanding to be able to flow with me. So I don't have to keep referring to that because it does take a bit of my time, even if it's 30 seconds. And I have a lot to pack in. It's already to the top of the hour, and I'm not even done. And this series is supposed to end today. So let's shoot. Something important just came to my mind and I don't want to lose it. Okay, I'm sorry, I must attend to comments. I'm seeing comments. All right, Savior, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for joining us, Savior. Thank you for joining us. So without systems, assumptions grow. With systems, how do I put this? So without systems, I said earlier that without systems, assumption grows. All right. I seem to be having a bit of network issues. What's going on? Okay. Without systems, assumption grows. With systems, expectations are visible. Note that, right? Note that. Without systems, assumption grows. However, with systems, expectations are visible. When expectations are visible, trust increases. And I hope somebody's getting that. So, in other words, the strong connections that you have in your life are not sustained by feelings, they're sustained by structure. That's just all I wanted to put out there. Time is just allowing me to dump this on you. Real connections, real relationships, real interactions, real channels of exchange are not sustained by feelings, they're sustained by structure. They're sustained by structure. They're sustained by structure. Which is why, for a bit of the time that I have left, I want to quickly talk about something very, very important. Remember, we said that the conversation today is about sustaining the connect. And as a subtitle, we're going to be having conversations around systems. We already had that conversation, culture, and personal responsibility. Can we quickly talk about culture? Can we quickly talk about culture? And anyone that's ever listened to me will probably be able to mouth out what my definition of culture is and what my view on culture, but don't just get there yet. I've grown a little bit. All right, I've grown a little bit. Let's talk about culture. Now, here's the thing about culture. All right, here's the thing about culture. Culture is what we call the invisible connector. Culture is what we call the invisible connector. And in this conversation about systems and all, when we go deeper with culture, you understand that culture is what sustains connection when nobody is watching, when nobody is checking, when nobody is even paying attention. Culture is what sustains connection. Culture determines how we speak under pressure. That's one. Culture determines how we resolve disagreements. That's two. Culture determines how we share credits. That's three. Culture determines how we handle mistakes. Culture is so important that it's a predeterminant of how we even allow structure or systems to function. Culture is so important. Now, many people perhaps will have said, oh, let's talk about culture first before we talk about systems. But the reason why I want to talk about systems first is because I want you to understand the operationalities that your relationships or your connection requires. But when we now come to culture, it speaks to what even fuels or drives the concept that operationality is built around. All right. So culture will either strengthen trust or erode it. In other words, a healthy connection, how do I put this? A healthy connection culture, right, includes a culture of direct but respectful communication. If it's indirect, it's probably not going to get the message delivered. If it's disrespectful, it's a violation of a culture, and your message will not be heard. Your message will be rejected because it's a direct violation of the culture. I started in a session where they were speaking about emotional safety. Culture delivers psychological safety and emotional safety. Very, very important. Culture also delivers shared ownership. It means that we both understand that this connection that we have and this relationship that we have a responsibility to make it work. Anytime that somebody leaves the responsibility of the working of the connection that you're in to somebody else, then you do not deserve to be in that connection. And therefore, the benefits of the connection shall not be accruable to you, because it requires joint ownership, much more than that, shared ownership, to be able to make it thrive, to make it work. So we talked about networks just a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about the fact that you cannot go into a network seeking to take out of it without thinking of what to give. You're a fraud. You can't ask for stuff that you can't give to it. You're not properly situated, properly positioned. Your comprehension and understanding of your responsibility in that relationship or that connection has not yet been imputed into you. There's something significantly wrong. There's something significantly wrong. So when we talk about these things, all right, culture also must deliver towards mutual accountability. I already talked about that. All right, it must deliver towards mutual. An unhealthy culture, on the other hand, and I'm rushing for time because I want to be able to deliver as much as can within the time brevity of the time that I have left. An unhealthy culture, on the other hand, will hide and thrive behind silence. If you know how much I hate silence, not in the sense that there's silence that you can process and think, but silence that robs of communication that builds is a disaster. It's cancerous. It's cancerous. So an unhealthy culture hides behind silence. It hides behind passive aggression. It hides behind blame. It hides behind um the lack of information, the lack of flow of information. You don't want to have a culture where people don't talk. You want to have a culture where people don't are not forthcoming. You don't want to have a culture that does not strengthen the connection that you have, that does not strengthen the relationship that you have, that does not strengthen the interaction that you have. Because listen to me, people, that relationship is a resource. That connection, it's a resource. That interaction, it's a resource. Resources are utilized to deliver outcomes. If anything affects the quality, the strength, the anchorage of that resource, then the outcome is fried and questionable. It's fried and questionable. All right? Okay. I'm getting signals for time. My goodness. So here's the hard question. Well, if I was going to ask you a question, here's the question I'll ask you. What culture are we reinforcing with our daily behavior? What culture are you reinforcing with your daily behavior? Because culture is really not what we say. Culture is really not what we say. Culture is what we tolerate. Well, think about that. Think about that. Think about that. Culture is not what we tolerate. Is not what we say. Culture is what we tolerate. What are you tolerating right now? If you tolerate disrespect becomes the culture of your relationship. If you tolerate lack of discipline becomes the culture of your space. If you tolerate ineptitude becomes the fabric of the culture of your organization. What are you tolerating? You see, we don't realize how important this is, because your understanding of culture, the way we think, the way we talk, the way we no. What's fueling the way you think? What fuels is it? Culture is not just the way you talk. What fuels the work? Culture is not just the way you think. What fuels the way you think? What fuels your outlook, your perspective on life, the way that you do things? What is fueling? What is powering the way that you do things? That's what you need to interrogate. And as a thought lead, I expect that this is what you should be doing over the next video. Why really? What is it really? Because if culture shapes you and culture will eat strategy for breakfast, then you better pay attention to the culture that you're actually living out. What are you tolerating? I wish I had the time to spend on this and to work on this with you, but I really don't. It's a few minutes to the hour, and I still haven't even gotten into personal responsibility. And you know that one has to be really hot. So we started off talking about systems, and I told you how important it was to build a system in every relationship that you're in every connect that you're in. You have to learn to build systems. Relationships don't thrive on emotions; they thrive on structure. They thrive on systems. And the system is a combination of structures. Structures are a combination of processes. All right, and it's not just emotions that will drive. Emotions can't even drive sustainable relationships or sustainable connect. And so there must be rules, there must be things that you agree to, there must be what is acceptable and what is unacceptable. And shifting from systems and coming to culture, now you've come to understand and to learn that what you have now agreed to accept, because every time that you accept something, every time that you tolerate something, you are saying, I agree to accept this, until you draw the line and no longer accept it. It becomes a way of life. So there is no what you have done is enabled wherever it is that is giving what you, as they say, you collect, you collect, you collect, you collect, and that's what really culture is about. And we've talked about culture in such a way that allows you to understand that, you know what, I have to even determine, I have to look at what powers my thoughts, what powers what I say, what powers the way that I do things, what's the driving force. That's where the real change comes in. That's where the real reconfiguration of your culture starts from. And then you're not bothered. I've given you the example of how you have the steps, you have the concepts, of the precepts, of the concepts, ideology, philosophy, that all of that now comes to mentality. And when you have mentality, is now expressed in your behavior. And so you must go back to the roots, to the concepts, and say, what is it? Look at your philosophy, what ideas that you love. Look at your ideology. Look at what then shapes your mentality that is expressed in your behavior. Don't just play at the level of your behavior. Go way back in. But now, to wrap up this series from alignment to impact, I want us to now look at personal responsibility. And this is very important, because this is where it gets really personal. This is where I come home to you. This is where I'm talking to you, and we're talking about personal responsibility. Because if you're in a situation, in an organization, in a church, in a family, in a whatever setup that you're at, wherever it is that you're in, please understand with me that sustaining that relationship is not just leadership's responsibility. It's everyone's responsibility. As long as you're connected to that office, to that organization, to that business, to that family, to that church, whatever setup it is, you have a responsibility to sustain it. And so they say a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And my prayer consistently over the last 40 years has been, God, please, in any chain that I'm in, let me not be the weakest link. So please, I want you to write your name and say, I, whatever your name is, my name is AU, Anekan Usoro. I, Anekan, will not be the weakest link in any chain that I'm in. Please, somebody write that down. I want to see that in the comment section. I want you to make that declaration with me. I'm pausing because it's so important. It's a very profound prayer that literally has served as an overarching shaping of my life. And if you know me, you will then understand why some things are working. So I want you to declare that I want you to put your name, will not be the weakest link in any chain that I'm in. Go ahead. I want you to write that down. That I'll repeat it to me. I, whatever your name is, will not be the weakest link. Will not be the weakest link in whatever chain that I'm in. All right? Because every one of us strengthens or weakens connection daily. The question is, are you strengthening connection or are you weakening connection? Every one of us. Strengthen. And how do you strengthen or weaken communication? Let's go through some of it. You, where you are. Personal question. Do you communicate clearly? I'm not even joking about this one. Do you communicate clearly? Number two, do you follow through consistently on anything that you're doing within any relationship that you're in? Do you address issues directly? You want me to go again from the top? I'll go again because you asked now. Number one, do you communicate? I want you to ask yourself, do you communicate clearly? Do you communicate clearly? We're talking about how you can either you're strengthening or you're weakening the connections that you have. Do you communicate clearly? Do you follow through consistently? Do you address issues directly? Do you protect trust? Do you protect trust? Because you see, the truth of the matter is, you can't demand sustainable connection while practicing inconsistency. You can't. You can't. You are either reinforcing alignment or introducing friction. Simple. On a daily basis. I repeat, you are either enforcing realignment or introducing friction. There's no neutral behavior. So I've come to learn that there's no gray area in any kind of relationship that you're in. You're either strengthening that relationship or you're weakening that relationship. On a daily basis, ask yourself, this action, this inaction, and it's not just action, this inaction, is it strengthening the relationship or is it weakening the relationship? There's no neutral behavior. So you have to take responsibility. You have to take responsibility in how you communicate. You have to take responsibility in how you get things done, how you show up consistently within whichever frame network that you're in. Your consistency is what bestows reliability on you. If you're not consistent, you can't be said to be reliable. And reliability does not mean that you are not good at what you do. Reliability means that you can't be trusted to deliver your goodness as at required. Please understand, two different things. We love the fact that you are talented, but if you cannot deliver your talents to us, then you have no use to us. You have no use to us. Can we trust you to deliver to us across whatever kind of relationship that you have? Can you be trusted? When there are issues, do you address them directly? Addressing direct issues directly also means that you're addressing them in the best way, void of disrespect, void of lack of tact, void of anything that would get in the way in your message. Listen, if you have a message to deliver, pay attention to how you deliver it. Don't be a hindrance to what message that you're trying to deliver, and that's for someone else. Don't be a hindrance to yourself. Do you address issues directly in that system that you're in that connect that you're in that relationship that you're in? Your inability to address issues doesn't show honor for that relationship that you're in. And so you've got to learn to address issues. You've got to learn to address issues directly. You've got to learn to be able to deal with matters in the best possible way that doesn't allow anything to get in the way of what you're trying to address. Because listen to me, if you have done all the alignment and integration and you've merged yourself into a purposeful network, please don't kick yourself out by poor communication or being a hindrance to them being able to receive whatever value that you are bringing to that network. I hope you understand what I'm saying. Do you protect trust? Trust is the currency of every network, the currency of every relationship, the currency of everything round about you. Protect trust. Protect the trust that's required of that connection that you have. Protect it. There are many things I could talk about this, but time. I don't have time. It's already past 8 o'clock. I don't have time. I'm hoping that I at least have been able to hit on the things that matter the most when it comes to the concept of going from alignment to impact. But just remember this in everything that you're doing, I repeat, you are either reinforcing alignment, and alignment empowers. Remember, so you're either reinforcing alignment or you're introducing fraction. In other words, you're either building or you're destroying. Maybe that will sink home now. You are either building or you're destroying. Let's bring this together as I close. Let's bring this together as I close. So we started with alignment. We set the series with alignment because impact requires direction. Impact requires direction. So we started with alignment. We moved into integration because isolation limits capacity. We explored purposeful networks because conversations create leverage. And now we're closing with sustainability because impact is not built on intensity, it's built on structures that deliver sustainability. It's built on consistency. Yeah. Here's what I want you to understand as I close. Connects, relationships are not events. They're disciplines. They are built in unseen moments. They are reinforced in uncomfortable conversations. They're protected by systems. They're strengthened by character. If we sustain a relationship, we sustain the impact that the relationship delivers. So you can't just show up when it's convenient. You can't just align when it feels good. We can't just contribute when it benefits you. That's not how you build what lasts. That's not how you have and deliver the kind of impact that is important. Because, listen, I have so much to say about when alignment, let me put it this way, when alignment is clear, when trust is protected, when systems are strong, when individuals take responsibility, impact becomes inevitable. I'll take that again, right? Okay, so maybe I'll say it better now. Listen to me, guys. When alignment is clear, when trust is protected, right, in a relationship, in a connect, when systems are strong, and every relationship must be built around the system, and when individuals in that connection take responsibility, impact becomes inevitable. And this, my friends, is how you move from alignment to impact. And I hope that this series that we're wrapping up right now is going to be one series you'll find very hard to forget. A series that will spoil you to, as I'm already getting a lot of feedback from people, of a series that will spoil you to a new level of how to build the right kind of relationships. All right. Okay. I think we're good.